What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about how you can take your MOTOVLOG setup to the next level. We're going to get it looking cinematic, crispy, audio is going to be clear, and it's going to look a lot like this.
Here's a quick tip for you, a quick life hack as it were. If you ever are wondering about what the odds are of something, anything, take any situation, it's always 50-50.
So before we dive into that, I need to put out a disclaimer. I am, of course, not a professional motovlogger. I haven't even been doing it that long, but I do know a thing or two about camera settings and how you can make your footage look super crispy. We want that cinematic look. We want the motion blur. We don't want it to look all prickly. I'm going to leave the rest up to you because your personality comes through in the motovlog if you're doing video and audio. Now, of course, this tutorial is going to work for whatever camera you use, whether it's a full frame DSLR, whether it's a GoPro, a DJI, or even an Insta360. Specifically, I'm going to be showing you the settings on the GoPro, and that's going to work from anywhere from the Hero 9 all the way up to the current version, which is the one that I have here, and that's going to be the Hero 12. Now, again, in the GoPro, those settings are going to be the same across all of them. All of them are also going to have the removable lens where you can add your ND filter, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. Before we get into all the settings and how we're actually going to set up the camera and audio, we need to talk about the hardware. So my current setup is on an AGV helmet, and why I like this particular setup and the one we're going to be talking about is because it's highly versatile. I can actually remove my mount fairly easily and attach it to any of my other helmets, and as long as I have my lapel mic inside a cheek pad, I can just plug and play. So if we start from the front and we look at the mount itself, this mount is a $15 flexible, removable chin mount, and you can mount it to pretty much any kind of helmet. Now, it's personal preference. I like it, like I said, because it's versatile and I can change it from helmet to helmet. However, there's plenty of options out there for attaching and securing your specific camera to the front of your helmet. I find that this one, being able to strap in and tighten down from the inside and then immediately remove it if I don't want to have a camera on my chin, makes it super, super awesome. I'll put the link in the description below for this mount itself. Obviously, from there, you're attaching your camera, GoPro, DJI, Insta360, whatever you're using, you're attaching it to the front of the chin mount. If you are doing audio, this is where it gets a little tricky. For GoPro, in particular, you can't just put your audio and plug it into the camera. There's no way to do that. You're going to need a media mod, which is what this is, that the GoPro itself actually slides into and allows you to plug in an external mic. For your MOTOVLOG setup, it's going to be a lapel mic. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Me, I use a Purple Panda mic. You can get them on Amazon as well. As long as it's tucked up under your chin or your cheek pad here, you're going to have very little wind noise, and that's how you're going to get your audio sounding super crispy. Taking a look at the inside, you can see here I actually obviously have my Cardo set up as well, so I have two microphones inside my helmet, but inside you have your lapel mic, in my case the Purple Panda. I have it tucked up underneath this chin pad here, and there's a bunch of different tips that you can use, whether it's just a foam one or it's the little bristly one that looks like it's better for wind resistance. It is. So again, hardware wise, pretty straightforward. All you need to do is make sure that your camera is securely mounted to the front of your chin and has a good field of view. Most of you are here watching this video because you want to make your MOTOVLOG footage look cinematic. You've seen others' footage and it just looks crisp, it looks buttery, it looks cinematic, and you're going, what are these settings? How are they doing that? And again, it's pretty straightforward. The key to making that footage look cinematic and buttery is going to be motion blur. The human eye sees blur whenever there's motion. The reason why yours doesn't look cinematic and the reason why yours doesn't look buttery like that is because you have your settings cranked all the way up. Your FPS is as high as it can go, the bit rate's as high as it can go, your shutter speed is on auto, and it is capturing every little detail in every frame. And that's the problem. We actually want to bring our shutter speed down as low as we possibly can to allow as much light into the camera and into the lens as possible. The rule of thumb is that your shutter speed is going to be twice the amount of your FPS. So if we're shooting in 4K 30 frames per second, we're going to be setting our shutter speed at 1/60. It's going to be twice the FPS. What that does, whenever you override your settings and you go into the pro settings in your GoPro and you change that, all of a sudden there's way too much light being let into your camera's lens and into that sensor. Your footage is going to be completely blown out. That's where the ND filters come in. We should have mentioned this in hardware, because it is a piece of hardware, but you need to get yourself an ND filter. On every GoPro from the 9 to the 12, the lens on the front of the camera actually swivels and unscrews off and allows you to attach an ND filter. And if you don't know what that is, it's going to be basically like sunglasses for your GoPro. It allows us to bring down our shutter speed, make it twice over what our FPS is, and then adds the sunglasses in to bring down the exposure. Right? So now all of a sudden we have way less light coming in. We're going to correct that amount and it's going to look perfect. So let's talk about settings. So first things first, I have mine set to super view. You can go down to wide if you don't like the super view angle. I don't really like the hyper view on the 12. I think that it distorts the image just a little too much. And so I leave mine on super view. From the super view, down at the bottom here, you can actually click on the edit for your whatever profile you have set up, and you can see I'm shooting at 4K 30 frames a second, super view with hyper smooth on. We want everything to be as smooth as we possibly can. And going down here through the capture, you can leave pretty much everything alone. The Pro Tune, if this isn't on, you actually have to turn this setting on so that you can actually go in and change your shutter speed, etc. You can see that was the most important one. Our shutter speed is going to be 1/60. Remember, it's 2 times your FPS. So if you change your FPS to 60 in 4K, you want your shutter speed to be 1/120. It's pretty much that simple. It's a ×2 ratio, no matter what you're using. Your white balance, I have mine set to 5500. It's typically set to auto. 5500 is, in my opinion, the best for daylight, especially here in Florida. Again, with it being so bright, I want my white balance set right around 5500. ISO minimum and ISO maximum. Yours is going to be pumped way, way up. The minimum should be 100. I have mine set to 800 max. That's going to keep the balance of it automatically sliding in and out of your depending on the scenario that you're in. If you're going through a tunnel or you're going through something that's darker and it needs to change, it needs to slide, you don't want it all the way up, right? 800 is where I have mine set. In general, that's going to be your main settings, and that's how you're getting that buttery footage. It's that simple. All right, so we've talked about settings, we've talked about hardware. The only thing left is for you to get out there and record, add your personality, and make those motovlogs stand out from everyone else. If you like this video, if you're new around here, let me know how I did in the comments below, and don't forget, hit the subscribe, the bell, the things, all the stuff that helps me out. Until next time, take it easy.